Welcome to The Daily Shift. You heard that right. The Daily Shift. The show where we block out the noise and speak truth, train your mind, and help you become the absolute best version of yourself. Leo and Andrew are on their way. You're in the right place. And while you're here, take a breath. We're about to dive in. The show starts in 30 seconds. You ready? Take a deep breath in and breathe it out. Prepare for your shift.
Hallelujah. What is happening, beautiful people? It is Tuesday, April 22nd at 12:05 p.m. Pacific time. And we got some green tea rolling. Praise the Lord.
How y'all feeling today?
We have to start every single live with that just to weed out the people who just don't want to be here.
That's exactly right. Welcome in. It is a beautiful Tuesday, and we have an incredible topic for today.
We are talking about the cost of growth and why you got to say yes. Why it still is worth it to grow and to expand yourself and your mind and your relationships and grow financially.
Yeah.
To grow in your mind muscle,
Yeah.
in your physical muscle,
You walk with God.
in your walk with God, and the skill sets that you have. Why the things that you do have a cost to it, but why it is so worth it.
Such a powerful thing as we dive into this, Leo. This is something that, before the show we was talking, and I struggled with this years ago, going like, with all the pressure that comes with entrepreneurship, with all the pressure that comes with life, like, is it even worth it sometimes? Like, where am I headed? What am I doing all this for? And so as we talk about your growth journey today, how you're stepping into new levels of power, of influence, of revenue, of income, and all the things, it will open up a whole new world of opportunity for you, of realizing you're not alone. Because that was always the toughest thing for me, was like, does anybody even get where I am? So I'm excited to dive in today. Are you ready?
I am excited. First of all, type it in the chat if you did your daily rhythm, whether it is doing your morning routine or reading the Bible or going to the gym or doing the thing that you said you were going to do. Type it in the chat. And I'm excited to go through this because it'll be like a good, nice little reflection for us. Because when we do this show, sometimes like today, it's things that me and Andrew are currently going through and have learned in a small way or a big way, but are currently learning it. And this is how we, in the moment, grow.
Yeah,
So
big time.
I'm excited for that.
Sometimes you teach what you most need to learn, and that's a powerful thing when you can give what you most need.
I agree. So we got 5 topics as per usual, or 5 points within this topic. This is a good place to take notes. And the biggest thing, guys who are watching this way later, and you guys who are watching this now, the most important part is that you see what clicks with you and you take action on it. You try it in a small way, and then if it works out for you, then you try it in a big way. And then if that works out for you, then you create it into a lifestyle.
And for any of you who struggle to just be transparent, as I think all of us have at some point, people love people in the process. And I think it's a powerful thing to remember as you're documenting your journey, if you're sharing it on social media or you're going through things, you're going to meetups, you're connecting with the right people. People love people in the process. Just be real.
All right. Awesome. So, number 1, type it in the chat. The higher you grow, the rarer it gets. Something that I've been learning is that as we are carving a path for our lives and creating a vision, less and less and less people can relate with us.
Yep.
And something that I've struggled with for so long is wanting to make sure everyone's happy, wanting to make sure family's happy, friends are happy, customers are happy, we're happy, everyone's happy. And as we've been growing, I've realized that it leaves a lot of room for misunderstanding. It leaves a lot of room for people to make their own assumptions.
Yep.
And you're not going to be liked by everybody.
Well, I've had friends, family, people who I used to associate with who, and I don't consider myself to be an egotistical person, but would say, oh, you're too good for us now. Well, no, I'm just building an empire and hanging out with awesome people, right? And so you start to attract sometimes the right people into your life, and there's only so much room in your life, and sometimes it's painful when you feel alone. That was, for me, I was like, I didn't feel like anybody understood me. It was like I wanted to do God's work, but some of the people I was around in that atmosphere didn't understand business. It was like, just, go to your job and do a God thing. Like, cool. And then some people in business were very involved in that, but didn't understand my desire to build God's kingdom. And so there was a period in my life that I felt very alone, and very few people around me could relate to the vision in my heart, because our whole life, think about it, the people you went to school with, the people you were raised around, your whole life has been spent around people who were at the vibration, the level, the same playing field that you were at that time. And very few people grow past a certain place. And when you're stepping into your calling and you're growing, it is an uncomfortable thing for you. But if it's uncomfortable for you, imagine how it is for your friends or former friends.
Mm-hmm.
That is a powerful thing when you can start to step into your power and be okay with that, knowing you got God, you got your people, and you're in the right place. What goes through your mind?
Type it in the chat. Growth is a lifestyle, and growth is a choice. And like Andrew was saying, when you grow up around a lot of people, for me, I went to public school, so I was with a lot of people who are at the same level and who are taught the same things from the same teachers, and we're all around the same energy. And you kind of stay there until you decide and choose to grow, and to grow out of the old town mentality, or whatever the highest link in the school. It's like you're just around that, either below or at the same level. And it's a choice to say, I'm going to take control of my future, and I'm going to start making the money I want to make, and choosing the income I want to make, and leading my life and leading my mornings, and going against the norm of society, or in this case, whatever school you went to, or whatever area or community or work that you're at, going against the norm. But when you do that it becomes very uncomfortable because people don't like growth if it's not for them.
Yeah.
They don't like when they see someone else grow.
I heard somebody in 2014 when I started getting into business. He said, Andrew, everybody wants to see you do well. Just nobody wants to see you do better than them.
Until you become someone who has growth for yourself in your own lifestyle. Then you know when everyone else grows, you can simply rejoice in their success and their growth. And then you also rise up.
It's when you find your people.
But that's also why it's so different and alone until you find those people who genuinely also want to grow and who also really support you. And they're real compliments and they're real support messages. And you feel that.
Yeah.
So the higher you grow, the rarer it gets to connect with the people that you were with, but also on the level that we're at now building in our business, there's not a whole lot of people who have done what we've done with Truca. And then so mentorship is a little bit less abundant.
Yeah.
And this is something I'm trying to break those, like, is there mentors for that? Is there people who can guide it?
Because what got us to the level we have been in all of our businesses is the right mentorships.
Right.
It's the right people. And now forging a new path, a new vision, and new ways. It's an interesting place to be.
It is very interesting. And it's scary sometimes being in this place because it's very unknown. Right? We don't know. We can feel that we're doing things right, but sometimes you just never get that instant check from a mentor saying like, yep, you're on the right path, keep going. And I guess for us, it's just connecting with God and just feeling, hey, are we on the right path?
Yeah.
And asking those questions.
And having each other. That's been huge.
So off to number 2 is leadership is heavy. Type it in the chat. Leadership is heavy. And this is a conversation, Andrew, I want to have if we agree with this idea that leadership is heavy. It's just this idea that it's very easy and light to lead when nobody depends on you.
Yeah.
When you don't have payroll, when you don't have a relationship, when you don't have brotherhood or sisterhood, when you don't have a lot of customers or people who depend on you.
Yeah.
But as you start to grow in a position where as a leader, of course, you have payroll, you're paying your team out, and also maybe some friends or maybe some students, they depend on your leadership, they depend on your guidance, then it becomes very, very heavy.
Yeah.
And I just want to discuss that. And for everyone listening who's stepping into a leadership position or who will eventually step into a leadership position, how do they balance the weight of leadership?
Well, first thing that I did wrong the first time years ago when I started building a team and built a big payroll and built a company and done all those things was I didn't understand the personal growth. I didn't understand the spiritual growth. I didn't understand building that muscle as a leader.
Right.
And so it was like when the attacks came and the litigation happened and crap happened years ago, it became very overwhelming. And I was like, business sucks. Like, I don't even want to be a business owner no more. And it was a struggle. It was a season that was incredibly tough in that moment to go through. And so I think it's been a powerful thing to look at it and say, okay, it is heavy. But when you're stepping into a calling, I look at some of our friends are pastors, right?
Mm-hmm.
I look at like a pastor. And from a business perspective, and thank God for great pastors. But I look at some pastors, leading a church of dozens or hundreds or even thousands of people. And I see the pressure they go through, leading the team, taking care of the sick, doing the funerals, doing all of the things that come along with pastoring. And sometimes it is a lot of work with little recognition and not great pay. And of course, being a preacher's kid, I've seen that firsthand. And so I realized that in order for someone to step into that role, it had to be a calling, right? Because if you was going to work that freaking hard for that small amount of money, you would do anything but that. And at the same time, I think in business that we're all assigned ways to help people. For some people, yeah, that's building a company and giving to good and to God and to charities. For some people, it's giving a message in your business that allows your team and your whole community around you to come up. But I think when you look at it as a calling, because there's always an easier way to make $1 million, $10 million. There's always an easier way to do it. But when you know you're in alignment with the calling and money is not number one, that's the symptom or the side benefit, then it gives you that strength every day to lead with power, to lead with certainty, to lead with clarity.
I like that. And I think it's very easy to say that it's easy to make $1 million, but I remember hitting the first 7 figures was the hardest thing I've ever done in my entire life.
Yeah.
And I had to step in as a leader to do it because we had to build a team and we had to have other people who were really good at operations or incredibly good at sales or incredibly good at marketing or product development in order to do that.
Yeah.
Because I had a certain skill set that I was good at and you had a certain skill set.
Yeah.
And we had to find other people who were good at those things to be able to get to that money a lot faster.
Absolutely.
And what you're saying then is when you have a calling for the thing that is creating money, it becomes a lot easier. And I think in addition to that, we have to then step in, all of us as leaders, to be able to get there even easier.
And I think I used to view mental pressure as a bad thing, like, this is horrible, right? Like, got to make this decision. I got to make this hard decision. And when you view it in that stressful way, it's almost like a personal attack on your mind, right? It's like,
Right.
I can't believe I'm dealing with this. Oh my goodness, why is this happening? But when you can change that perception to like, we talk about sometimes pressure is a privilege.
Yes.
Saying, okay, I it's like in the gym. I don't go, oh my gosh, this weight's heavy. This sucks. I'm never lifting again. I go, that made my arm pretty freaking sore. I better go do it again, right? And so looking at that, saying, okay, it is a privilege. This pressure, there's a way to do this. Stop, breathe, talk to God. And I think that is where the ultimate comes in, is when we think we have to own and control everything. The mental pressure becomes sometimes too much because we wasn't meant to.
Mm.
The Bible talks about cast all of our cares on him because he cares. And so when we see ourselves as managers managing what he's allowed us to have say over, now we realize it's his business. And if it's his business and we're managing it for him, well, gosh, we're checking in with him every day to see if we're doing it the right way.
So type in the chat, leadership builds spiritual muscle. As leaders, we have a lot of pressure and we have a lot of decisions that we have to make on any given day. And when you start to fall in love with that type of pressure, you start to become very strong in your discernment, very strong in your ability to decide what is right, what is wrong, what is against your values, what is for your values. And I think that if we all start falling in love with that type of pressure, while still making, of course, the right decisions, but falling in love with that allows us to be so strong spiritually, mentally, physically as we start to grow every single day.
Absolutely.
So that leads us to number 3 is every level, type in the chat, every level demands a new steward. I saw this and I was like, oh, this sounds really cool. And I was like, what the heck does that mean? But as I started to discuss with myself, what does stewarding mean? What does it mean to step into a new level and have to manage the new level activities?
Yeah.
Right. When we step into a new level, our team grows, money grows, responsibilities grow.
Yeah.
If I led that team and money the same way I led the last level, it would bring me right back to the last level.
Yes.
And that is a hard lesson that I'm currently learning because I'm very comfortable at this last level.
Yeah.
And every day I'm being forced to read and to study and to go through pressure. And we're seeing it in real time of like, oh my God,
Yeah.
this is tough. But let's talk about that. Every level demands a new steward.
Something I've been doing, as you know, Leo, is I've been doing this hyper learning of becoming a better CEO. And sometimes it's the small things. And I'll give you 2 quick examples. We have to hold ourselves to a higher standard. Ask yourself, if I led the management around me, the life around me, at the next level, the way I'm leading now, how would it work? So, for example, I think of it this way: if you was if you're a social media marketing agency, you help people build their social medias, and you have 3 clients. What if you tomorrow had 300 clients? Well, if you go from 3 to 300, almost inevitably you're going to crash and burn. Why? Because you're not yet grown into the place to handle 300. I'm not talking about team. I'm just talking about management, the way you manage. Imagine you have one house that you bought for an investment, and tomorrow you somehow, God just blessed you, and somebody said, I'm going to sell you 300. You don't need a bank. I'm just going to sell them to you. You can pay me every month and collect the rent. Like, most of us would crash and burn in that moment because we're not yet there. And so when I started to look, how do I hold myself to that higher standard? This morning I was reading, and as I was looking through Becoming a Better CEO in the book I'm reading, one of the examples they gave was, while you're on a Zoom with your team, are you focused? Are you there? Are you answering messages from the last Zoom you was on that you missed? And halfway there and halfway out. When you're on a meeting with someone, are you 100% there? Are you taking the 10 minutes before the meeting and making sure you're prepared for that meeting and know the outcome you want?
Mm-hmm.
Because when you could show up with one person and handle the thing off the top of your head, right? As we used to say, flying by the seat of our pants. If we're just handling the thing last minute, maybe that works when it's you and one team member. But it doesn't work when it's you and a whole team looking up to you, waiting for your guidance. So holding yourself to a new standard, allowing those around you, your soulmates, the right people to hold you to a new standard, and realizing, back to the fact that many of the people who were around you at the last level will not be at that next level. And I share that because it was so hard for me to accept as that happened, and we was talking about it on this show.
I think that for the new entrepreneurs, as you were talking, I was thinking about the newer people who are maybe not in a position where they're leading 5, 10, 20, 30, 50 people.
Yeah.
But will soon be in a position where they might lead 3, might lead 5. But leadership is also self-leadership.
Mm-hmm.
It's also when you go from making at your W-2 2 to 3K a month to then running your business to match the 2K a month, but then you hit a level 3 months later in your business where you get 42 orders from a big promo you did, and now you made 8K. If we know that that's the rhythm of business, it's up and down. Some months you'll make a ton. Some months you might make a little bit less. Something will happen. A refund will happen. But if we know that business goes up and down, then we have to respect the idea that we always have to build our self-leadership. Because I believe that we get a lot of chances over and over again. That $8,000 month hits, you get a lot of orders. If you had developed financial stewardship every day for just 10 minutes, you would understand exactly where to place that $8,000 now. Okay, let me put 20% in a war vault. Let me put 10% here, 50% towards taxes, right? And then let's use the rest for marketing, and let's do 8K a month.
Yeah.
And then the business is growing and stabilized from that chance. But if we did not learn financial stewardship, like I did not learn financial stewardship for so long, that $8,000 comes and we drop it back down. We spend it all. We waste it. And then that chance is over.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, you pray for another chance. And then when it comes, it falls back down again. And I think this is what it means, where every level demands a new steward.
Wow.
Every level of financial increase, every level of financial decrease, right? 1 month comes where you lose 5K. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
If you have learned financial stewardship, if you have learned budgeting, if you have learned how to manage your money well, you would have a war chest to protect yourself.
Yep.
So I really hope that is making sense. And it's just the simple idea that if you hear this, just start spending a little bit of time building up these skill sets and building up the emotional maturity as if a lot of money was to come in.
If you haven't read it, you should read The Psychology of Money. It's a good book.
It was a good book.
Yeah.
Also, The Richest Man in Babylon.
Oh, that's a good one too.
That is the one that changed my life. The Richest Man in Babylon. Someone type in the chat. I'll put it up. You ready for number 4?
Ready for number 4.
Go ahead.
Temptation increases with territory. The bigger we expand, the more we step into our power, the greater opportunities come. And sometimes that can be good opportunities, which is opportunity for growth and more impact. And sometimes that can be opportunities to veer off the track.
Type it in the chat. Higher levels, higher devils.
What does that mean to you?
It means that as we grow, let's just say on our platform, as you grow on the platform, temptations are always there. But the bigger you grow, the bigger the temptations get. The bigger the check that is unethical gets. The bigger the distractions get. And when you're in a place of not making so much money and you're just starting, or you're just going day by day, and maybe not building so much, the temptations are very small. Right. You might see 2 or 3 people, or you might
be tempted to skip your workout or your healthy meal
the temptations are smaller.
Right.
But as you grow into leadership, and as you're making more money, as you're making more impact on a logical side, the more money you make, the bigger the taxes are.
Yeah.
The bigger or unless you
own a lot of real estate,
get a great tax strategist and talk with them and work with them. The bigger the taxes are, the biggest the expenses are, the bigger the people that see you and try to tempt you are.
Yeah.
Right. But on the spiritual side, that's the perfect place for the enemy to try to take you down.
It's so true.
What goes to your mind?
So something came to me, a friend of mine told me one day, and I think this will be helpful if you're listening to this. I was feeling like a total idiot years ago when I had lost the $3 million. And it was a horrible situation, and I had been taken advantage of, but I had to look at myself in the mirror and say, hey, should have brought the attorney in sooner, should have listened to the attorney, should have done what the attorney said. So ultimately, there was only one person to blame, and it was the person in the mirror. And so I'm talking to one of my friends one day, and I was like, I'm such an idiot. I can't believe I signed those papers without my attorney's approval. And he looks at me and he goes, Andrew, I wasn't stupid. He goes, you make mistakes all the time. He said, but the more you're managing, the more the mistake can cost. He said, take, for example, if all you owned in the entire world was one car. He said, the worst mistake you might make is, curbing it or bumping into something, and it's a $3,000 paint job because you scraped the fender. He said, but that same level of mistake, if you're managing $3 million, $5 million, $10 million of assets, 20, $100 million, that same $2,000 mistake could be $3 million. Just like if you have nothing, maybe you didn't look at the price on the menu and you bought something, it was an extra $30. Mm-hmm. It's the same level of mistake or the same level of not looking at something. And so on a spiritual level, as we start to step into our power and our leadership and our impact, you realize that temptation is given to the great. Imagine you're the strategist for the enemy, for the devil.
Okay.
And he says to you, hey, what should I do? Like, are you going to tell him to go take out the guy who is influencing one person? Or are you going to go tell him to put some focus and strategy into taking out the guy that's influencing 3,000 or 3 million? And so you start to look at that and go, wait a second, if there really is a spiritual world out there, and I believe there is, if we really don't wrestle against flesh and blood, but against, the Bible said, principalities, powers, and rulers of darkness in high places, then they must have some pretty darn good strategies. And if so, the higher the level, the higher, in other words, the impact, the more you step into your power as the leader you're meant to be, the more There's going to be focus from the enemy territory to ensure that there's traps and snares set up.
So do you think the person who's listening to this and be like, all right, I don't want to experience that.
Yeah.
I don't want to be tempted. Let me just play it small and build a small business.
Yeah.
Do you think that's like, what goes to your mind when I say that?
So I think everyone has a different calling, and the greatest calling that you could step into is the one you're meant for. I don't think everybody was meant to be rich and run a huge company, but I think if you're walking in alignment with your calling, some of you were meant to run a team of 100 or 1,000. Some of you were meant to have you and a partner, or you and 3 team members, and the impact is the same in the level of importance from God's eyes, because you're stepping into the full purpose that he called you to do.
Wow.
Right? So if you have a engineer or a coder who's coding, and their role is to code, and you have a janitor whose role is to make sure the place is clean, if the coder codes and the janitor makes sure the place is clean, both done an equal job in terms of success, in terms of getting the job done they were set out to get done.
Okay.
And for all of us stepping into, sometimes we see a role and we're like, oh, that's sexy. I want to be in that role, right? I want to be in that. But ultimately it's going, okay, what did God put me here for? Because that's where I find the most peace.
Okay. I like that. So you're saying that everyone has their own calling, and it's our job to find what that calling is and to live that out. And no one's calling is higher than someone else's calling.
Absolutely.
Even if you're called, quote unquote, called to impact 1 million people, and I was called to impact 20.
Yes.
We still, in God's eyes, did the same thing as long as we do our thing to our maximum.
Absolutely.
I like that. Very, very good.
Because imagine there's a missionary in another country who helped 20 people know God, and God called him to be over there in that country, far away from everything else. And then there's somebody in the U.S. and they've impacted 3 million people to know God, right? Like, if both were stepping into the power God called them to, then both were obedient. And God doesn't measure success like we do. He measures success in obedience.
You see, that's very comforting to understand that one's calling is not higher. And I think that should give everyone a lot of comfort, where if you're called, maybe you're not even called to make content. Maybe you're called to just in your town build a community, or to just serve your family, or to, maybe it is to build a huge business. Whatever your calling is, it should give so much comfort that it is yours.
Yes.
It is no one else's. It is yours. It's your assignment. And that, to me, has been something that has changed my perspective on things. Because I stopped comparing other people's callings to what we're doing.
Yeah.
And I just say, like, we're on the right track. And I feel great about it.
Absolutely. I think that's a gift when you can realize that. And then it just comes, because we can try to make ourselves feel better about things by comparing ourselves to people not doing as well.
Right.
Or we can try to make ourselves feel crappy by comparing ourselves to someone who's seemingly doing better. But ultimately, the measuring stick, so to speak, should be, am I in alignment with what I'm meant to be?
I love it. Number 5. Number 5 is maturity is taking it one step at a time. Maturity is taking it one step at a time. And in addition to that, it says maturity is taking it one holy step at a time. Now,
it's getting borderline churchy on us now.
I know. Maturity is taking it one step at a time. And I can speak to this one. This second one, I'm learning it. So I'm going to speak to the first one. And it's this idea of not taking it 10 steps at a time, because it is impossible for us to jump 10 steps. But it is very possible for us to just take one simple step at a time. And I think when I made this 4 hours ago, what I was saying was I'm learning to abide in God, which simply just means always being with God. When we're on the show, thanking God. God, can you speak through me, allow me to be here, and avoid temptation. Keep my mind straight. When we have that mentality of keeping God close, of talking to God throughout the day, you're abiding in Him, which is what He calls us to do, and then you use that to take it one step at a time. That's something that I'm learning that I don't know how to explain yet, but it has been making so much sense.
Something that the Bible says to pray without ceasing, to rejoice evermore. And I think about terms of going throughout the day, and all day long, your mind is going. You think a few thousand thoughts, or a few hundred at least, probably a few thousand thoughts a minute. Right. And another place it says, take captive every thought. Well, crap, that's a lot of thoughts to take captive. And I start to look at that and go, okay, all day long, how do I maintain such a alignment that I'm not stressed? I'm not thinking about negative things. Another place he said, think on things that are pure, think on things that are true, think on things that are just, think on things that are of a good report. He said, if there be any virtue and if there be any praise, think on these things. Well, what that tells me is if there is any virtue, any purity, and if there's praise, if we're going to be praising, we have to be thinking on things that are good, lovely, of a good report. We have to be thinking on these things. Well, I dare say if you flipped on Fox News or CNN today or scrolled social media, you started getting off track with those things, right? Because ultimately you're going to see something negative. You're going to see something that brings you anxiety. You're going to start to see something that brings you off track. And so it's taking every single moment of the day and saying, how do I make sure I get back on track? How do I stay grounded? How do I get aligned? Am I thinking on things that are pure and are good and are lovely and are of a good report? That's a pretty short yet powerful list. And when you start thinking in that way, that changes the course of your actions, which again brings you more of the right people into your life and more peace when you know you're on the right path. And it gives you the ability for God to convict your heart when we aren't on the right path.
Yeah. It has been a month of not listening to rap.
Oh, wow.
And my mind...
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's big.
And I only stopped listening to it is because I started listening to worship music so much and enjoying it. But every time I turn on rap music, my brain is like, I feel, when you go on a huge diet and you fast. I remember fasting for 3 days and then eating, and everything felt weird. Yeah. Eating processed food was disgusting. Yeah. And my stomach rejected it.
Wanted purity.
It wanted just good food. Yeah. And it feels like that where I have fasted from that type of music. And now every time I listen to it, I really want to enjoy it.
What a good example.
But it's like,
wow,
the beat is uncomfortable and the words are uncomfortable. And you know me, I would listen to rap music every single day and I would speak it out loud, but my actions would follow. Yeah. And my mind would follow everything because they say some crazy things. Yeah. And so it's crazy how much God changes your heart and your actions and what you do and how much conviction you get in your heart when it comes to music, when it comes to people, when it comes to social media, when it comes to news, when it comes to all these things, you can start to make the right decisions.
Where did that come from? Like that shift of start noticing that?
I think that I have understood that in our leadership, in our place, that I think do we have time? Okay, well, we have a quick moment. Since that one event that we threw where we were able to see how much the enemy tries to get leaders down in so many different capacities is when I started to understand spiritual warfare in a context that is logical but also is spiritual. Yeah. I never fully believed it until I saw it. I was like, okay, it makes sense now. And us as men, there's so many different places where the enemy will try to get at you. Yeah. Get you down because it's so easy. You see it so often with young men and older men and entrepreneurs nowadays where if it's not drugs, alcohol, or sex, then it is lust, right, which is sex. It is eating the wrong foods. It is social media overconsumption
Yeah.
and love of money. And all those things everyone has to go through. But I noticed for us, we've overcome so many of those things.
Yeah.
And we can say that boldly because we have overcome those things.
Yes.
And we also understand the higher the levels, higher the devils. There's bigger temptations.
Yeah.
And while we can't be tempted by anything we've seen so far, there's other things out there that could be thrown at you that we see and we're like, hey, that is a temptation. And because of our brotherhood, of course, we say, hey, that's a temptation. That is tempting. This has the ability to tempt you. But if we listen to rap music, it weakens our spirit and it weakens our mind so that the regular temptations that we see throughout the day can now enter in. And then we're weak.
Yeah.
We're very spiritually weak. I believe that I become spiritually weak when I start listening to rap music.
That's good perspective.
So we stop because the mission is stronger than some rap music.
That's powerful. You know, what you just described there is really spiritual discipline. You know, because you know how many people know, the Bible says, to him that knows to do good and does it not, to him that is sin. In other words, if you know to do a good thing and you don't do it, that becomes sin.
Okay.
And I think about that because, you know, growing up from a church background, I constantly would hear people, you know, they would sometimes point out certain sins for sure, but others might be left alone.
Yeah.
And I think about that from a discipline standpoint to say, okay, rap music, I'm gonna just X that because that doesn't help me live for God. Bad foods, unhealthy foods, all right, I'm gonna be careful in those because that doesn't do good for the temple. And I think it's just such a gift for every one of us when we can develop that mental discipline, because that's what it is. You know, when you got me to start working out, just said, no bread, no fried foods, no dessert. It was just that change that said, hey, this is no longer who I am. And when we step into our identity, our new identity as King's kids, our new identity as business owners, our new identity as successful, whatever you're called to, whatever you're living, that's a powerful discipline to just be able to live in consistently. And it's not a choice, even. It's just what we now do.
Yeah. So there's new tools
Yes.
to be able to remove that, and I'll list a couple of them that works really well. On Instagram, and here I saw a video the other day. It's like Instagram is the modern duality of David looking at Bathsheba.
Oh, wow.
Because on Instagram, it's pulled to make men have the ability to see everything on there.
Uriah's rooftop.
It's the new Uriah's rooftop, which I don't think we have time to tell the whole story. But for the men listening, you can hold down a video if you see something and you can tap uninterested and it'll stop showing you less.
I didn't know that.
And you can train your algorithm. I've seen your algorithm. It's very clean.
Yeah.
But it's one way where the algorithm is so clean, but something will pop up. It'll like test you. It literally tests you. Like,
That's
look
true.
at me, right? And you hold it uninterested, and it just stops sending it to you.
Isn't that crazy?
But you can clean up your algorithm, but also you can clean up what you listen to, clean up what you read, clean up your what's that thing called of the food cabinet thing?
Pantry?
Pantry. You can clean up your pantry.
The food thing.
And set up these tools that make you a better steward, a better manager of your own life so that you do not get tempted.
If you wonder about your algorithm and you think yours ain't too bad, I'll give you 2 challenges. Number 1, trade phones with a brother and just see how it flows for 15. Or number 2, scroll while your girlfriend's around.
Exactly. And I think that it should be
That's funny.
It should be a call to make this a very open conversation between men.
Yeah.
Of like, hey, clean up your algorithm, right?
Yeah.
And when you actually do it, you can be. I couldn't say this 6 months ago. I absolutely couldn't say that. I couldn't look at the camera and say I have a clean algorithm, right? Because I did not.
Wow.
It was just whatever was there.
Yeah.
And now, because of these past 6 months, genuinely changing a lot of things, it's like, hey, Now I can say that.
Well, because the old way, and this is important, you didn't have to think about it, right? Because it's just there.
Yeah,
But
you
the
don't
new
think it's
way,
wrong.
right? It's like, well, what did I do wrong, right?
Yeah.
But then when you be proactive, and this is a powerful takeaway, guys, when you become proactive in your walk with friendships, with brotherhood, with God, with your business, it will be uncomfortable,
Right.
but it will be so transformative.
So I think, I mean, this is kind of going way off, not even off topic. This is so important that for everyone listening, when you have accountability
Yeah.
and have, being equally yoked is the same in a brotherhood as it is in a relationship, as it is in a partnership.
So
when
true.
have someone that you're equally yoked with, or multiple people that you're equally yoked with, of course, in separation of brotherhood and relationship, etc. But be equally
Clarity.
yoked where you can catch each other on these things and
Yeah.
make each other better. Because when you're solo, I don't know if the Bible says stuff about, I'm sure it does,
Yeah.
but it's harder when you're solo and doing things alone and going through alone than when you have someone who is with you on the journey.
So true. The Bible talks about that over and over again.
So I think we'll wrap with that, because we can go for another couple of hours. But we appreciate you guys for being here and allowing us the platform to be able to talk about things vulnerably, and the accountability too,
Yeah.
to say, hey, this is who I was 6 months ago, this is who I am now, and 6 months later, we better still have the accountability of being where we are.
Right.
Because if we stop talking about it 6 months, you know what happened.
You know,
It's
like somebody's scrolling through our old videos. Check
Sorry,
it.
guys. So yeah, what a great talk today. The one thing I want everyone to take away is that there are levels to this game.
Yes.
There are levels to life, but know that every level requires new stewardship, but every level has new devils. But it is the absolute biggest pleasure and honor to be able to go to a new level, fight that pressure, build through that pressure, become a better person from it, and be ready for the next level.
What a gift.
Absolutely. God, thank you so much for this day. Thank you for this platform, allowing us to speak your word and to speak our truth. God, thank you for everyone on here. Give them the ability to walk today with so much faith, so much confidence, and so much love, knowing that the pressure that they currently have is from you to help them grow into the person that they need to be to fulfill their calling. God, give everyone so much clarity on what their calling is and allow them to take it step by step. God, we thank you. We love you. We honor you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
All right, beautiful people. We will see you tomorrow. Same time, same place.
Bye for now.
Deuces.